Hello, hello, welcome to Mindset to Results. And today our guest is Orest Kamarnitsky, and we are going to speak today about the man's success and how to become successful not only in business but also in personal life, also how to feel and look great. That is not always very easy task, but it is possible. And Oris today will share his ideas and what he's teaching his clients as a life coach for men. Hi, Orest.
Hi, Elena. Thank you for having me on your show.
You're most welcome. I'm looking forward our amazing episode because we can see that so many men who want to be successful and sacrifice their personal life to think that something is what they have to put in as priority is business, and then many times they find out that they can lose their wife, they cannot maybe happy with their personal life, or maybe they also sacrifice their health and don't like how they look anymore. So let's speak today how we can help these men who are very driven, ambitious business owners and entrepreneurs, has big goals, but how we can help them today to understand that we can do everything and we can still be successful in business and have good personal life and also look great.
Sure, sure. Absolutely. I think, one of the biggest things is that it all starts with communication. And a lot of men just turn that off and they go on autopilot. And one of the things I've found in dealing with men is that they've never ever asked their wife or their kids what they want. And they're working on an idea of they're working on an idea of what they think they want, and they never actually get clarity on that. And that's where it starts to break down. Yeah, everyone wants security, safety, all of those things, but there's other things that a woman is looking for in a relationship out of a man. And so, and it's different with every woman too. So one of the things that I encourage men to do at the very beginning is to actually ask their wife what do they want, and sometimes you're not going to get an answer right away because it's most people cannot identify with specificity and clarity what they want. They're kind of walking generalizations, and hence they don't really get anything. They don't fail they fail to get results in their life. Probably a big example of that, let's say people say, like, well, I want to lose some weight. Well, how much? Saying I want to lose some weight is kind of like there's no goal, there's no target to go for. And what do you want? So I think being able to be very specific about your wants and expressing them is very, very important.
Yeah, so as far as I understood what you had said, that it is important to communicate with wives for men because they are leaders. Yes, they have business, they have responsibilities, and they used to lead and to manage people, and they used to know what is good for their business. Yes. And when
Yeah.
it comes to personal life, they can just come with the same identity to home and think that they know better everything. Yes, and they can just think from their perception what is good for the family, and missing to ask wife what how she thinks. Yes, about things. Yes, and here where disconnection can start happening.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's the biggest thing is people assume things, and what you assume may or may not be true. And quite often there's actually, and it could be true, but there can be more to the story too. So one of the things I tell men is there's several modules, but one of them is really about being romantic. And I tell men, I do this. I've been doing this for over 30 years. I'm married. I've been married to first time and only time to the same woman for 32 years. I didn't get married until I was late. I was 40 when I got married. It was kind of like an overcooked meal by then. Uh, and um, and so one of the things I do every other week is I buy my wife a dozen red roses and I put them in a vase and I give them to him. And I was talking to some men about this, and you go, "Oh, I buy some flowers for my wife, and then I give them to her." And I go, "Like, you don't put them in the vase?" I go, "Like, you just gave her a job." And they give you some phony excuse like, "Oh, I don't know how to put flowers in a vase." I mean, come on. It's not rocket science. It's not brain surgery. It's like, what do you mean you don't know how to have the people at the grocery store show you how to do it? It's not like it's not. But don't hand her a bouquet of roses and then say, "Oh, go ahead and put them in the vase," because you just literally have given her a job. But man, I will tell you that if you start doing that, that's going to get noticed, especially if you don't do anything like that at all. And don't expect, you're not going to bring home a dozen red roses, and you're not going to have sex right away. Okay, it's just not going to happen like that. Just because you bring the roses, don't expect and do. That's the other thing. Do stuff without expectation. Don't. It's not one for one. And I deal with men that maybe have sex once a year or even less. I just can't imagine that, because it's not just the physical act of sex, it's actually the intimacy that's important. There's spiritual, emotional, and physical intimacy when you have a good sexual relationship, and all three are there. And if it's not there, then I I can guarantee you that your sex is not going to be very fulfilling. Matter of fact, the woman's just going to be laying there, especially if you're begging your way to sex. That's the worst thing you do. The woman's just going to lay there and just praying that the pounding is over, so she can get on to whatever else she needs to do. And it should be intimacy should be engaging, where both of you are actually very, very much involved uh, in the in the intimacy. And it's not, and sometimes it's a quickie, and sometimes it's more of a like a 12-course meal.
So, what do you think about the in how the distance starts? Because initially, when people just get married, they're so happy, they're so excited, and they just want to spend all the time with their loved ones. And then, when what really becomes the reason that people start getting cold, and then just as you said that they can live in one house as a husband and wife and don't have any intimacy
Yeah.
at all.
Well, there's several things that happen. Um, I think one of the big ones, and people always laugh, and when I say this, people start nodding their heads. Yeah, kids, kids, and first, you're married, you don't have any kids most of the time. And sometimes sometimes people could get married now and have the kids are already there, but most of the time it's like kids, and then the kids start coming in your bedroom in the morning, and it's all kind of fun and cute and everything else, but then that means nothing else is happening. And then you get out of the rhythm of doing that, and also, quite frankly, most of the time, even if the woman is working, she ends up being the primary in terms of taking care of the kids. I know that was true in my case. My wife, it was about 75-25 split, and I was very active in my kids' life. But and it's tiring. It's tiring to take care of kids. And so, yeah, she's kind of beat, especially when they're young and they're crying all day or whatever. That just wears you down. That just makes you want to go when your husband comes home, it makes you just want to go and drink. Uh, here you take the kids for a few hours. So that happens, and I think also people get busy in their careers, and as you start getting more successful, invariably what happens is you start getting more responsibility, which really takes you away, takes your focus on what's going on at home, and so slowly but slowly. I mean, it doesn't happen. One of the things well, she just left. She just all of a sudden I just got divorce papers. Well, no, that your situation started years ago. That was just the final end result was that you're being served, but that situation started years ago. And uh, Jordan Peterson writes about this, and I'm a big fan of Jordan Peterson. He talks about that a small issue left unattended grows dramatically over time. So, that will often happen in that, you may start being more distant. She started being more distant, and next thing you know, the guy when a guy wants intimacy, and she's tired, and then they're frustrated and this and that, and they're not on the same wavelength. And that's kind of the whole thing. And guys are built differently. I mean, guys can have they can be ready for sex in a matter of seconds. For most women, it takes a warm up period uh, to do that. Even if it seems spontaneous, she's probably been thinking about it for a while before it happens. So those are the two big differences. But I think again, you get busier in your career. You're spending more time at the office, more stress. You may even be short when you come home. You may be pissed off, stressed out, or whatever. And I think that happens. That happens quite often.
So, you as a coach, how you help men? So, what can be done first to prevent the situation to happen, and then also to maintain great relationship and to keep that fire, which
Yeah.
they had in the beginning?
I think you do little gestures like that. I think the probably the biggest thing that I would encourage your listeners is to do the roses, the dozen red roses, and I only give red roses to my wife. We have my daughter is back with us for a few weeks, and when she came, she got a dozen yellow roses. No one else gets red roses. Only my wife gets red roses. She doesn't get pink. She doesn't get yellow. She doesn't get whatever. She gets red roses. And every other week is about right because they will die in about 5 days, 5 to 7 days. Sometimes they die sooner. Sometimes it lasts a little bit longer. But they get tossed out and then it gets replenished. But I would actually encourage you if you're not in a habit like I am of doing this, then I would encourage to put it in your calendar as a recurring appointment every other week to go ahead and do that. I think the other thing is that guys, if you want to have a great relationship, you always have to be in the hunt. You always have to be in the hunt. You got to be flirtatious, maybe even kind of in a funny way, inappropriate with your wife. Those kind of things really bring back the fun in a relationship. People don't oftentimes they forgot to have fun, and so that's a real important thing. The biggest part people because we spend a lot of time talking about masculinity, and people go like, well, what's the most important thing about uh being masculine? And the number one thing is to be a gentleman. That's like number one. And then there's a whole bunch of other things that I talk with men about, but they that's really important because men kind of fail to do that after a while. I know I don't do one thing that I talk about doing as much as I'd like to, but I don't open the car door often enough for my wife. And when I do, it's noted. I mean, it's noticed, but it's little gentleman things like that that tell a woman not by telling her, because in 2024, everyone knows what to say. It's, everyone knows what to say. But the question is, do you carry out the action? Do you act? And that's the big thing is I judge people by how they act, not about what they say, because too often, more often than not, people will say something and they don't follow through on action. And that is really the thing is like saying it is not enough. Showing it is by your actions is really, really critical. Um, and I think the other thing, you asked about what causes the distance. Uh, I think also I'm a big proponent, and I'm a physician. Consult with the appropriate healthcare professional before pursuing a course of taking any medications. But I'm a big proponent of optimization of testosterone for men, and I myself have been on testosterone for over 25 years, and I can't. There've been a few times I had to get off of it. It was miserable. And one of the things that they lose their vitality or their energy as they get older, and it starts in their 30s and 40s, where you have a decline in your testosterone level. The challenge for men is that it happens so slowly that you really don't notice it. It's maybe 1% a decline a year, and so it's just so gradual, versus something like menopause for women, which is a relatively quick event. It's months or maybe a year or a little bit longer than that, but it happens relatively quickly. And so in men, it's so gradual that they often don't notice it, and they adapt to it, to being low testosterone. I can tell you, when I go to the gym, I can tell you who the older guys are that are on testosterone, who aren't, because there's a whole different look. There's a whole different look in terms of energy, muscularity, everything else. And I'm 72 now, and I'm doing things in the gym. And some people may say I'm cheating. I'm not competing with anyone other than myself. But I'm doing things in the gym in terms of the amount of weight that I'm lifting and what I'm doing, that most 70-year-olds, unless they're on testosterone, would not be doing.
Mhm.
And it's a big problem. The other issue, Elena, is that uh, when a man goes to see his doctor and they do the blood tests, and they tell you, okay, you're in the normal range for testosterone. Okay,
Mhm.
normal is not optimized.
Mhm.
And just recently, within the last year and a half or so, some of the lab companies have dropped their high normal from 1196 to 916. Now that's a huge jump. That's a huge jump. And they've also dropped what the lower level is normal. So you can fall into that normal level, but that's not optimized. That's not healthy. And so this is a big problem. Most physicians are they treat by the numbers for legal purposes,
Mhm.
and so it's really hard to find a physician that's going to give you uh, an optimized level of testosterone, so that you can feel better and be more muscular, have more energy, improves your attitude. Testosterone is a monster antidepressant. I have friends, and myself too, like experiences, who had to go off, and they were just miserable. They became a shell of who they used to be. And these are highly, successful men,
Mhm.
and so that was they couldn't wait to get back on it. So that's the real issue. And yeah, so a man who's 60 today has about 17 to 18% less testosterone than a man 60 20 years ago. And
Mhm.
that's how bad. There's a generational decline. This is not tinfoil hat stuff. There's a Massachusetts male normative aging study that looked over men's a whole bunch of things in men's health, and they really chronicled and documented this fact that's going on, that's evident. The other issue, and I know I was going to talk a little bit about younger men, in their 20s. This is a huge issue that's being uh, underdiagnosed because most physicians would never think about giving a young man in his 20s to test their testosterone. And we are seeing men, the doctors that I've spoken to a lot of doctors, and when I used to do my podcast, I interviewed a lot of doctors in this space that you'd consider tip of the spear doctors. They're saying that they're seeing men in their 20s showing up with lower baseline testosterone values than men in their 50s and 60s, which is, I have a friend of mine whose two sons in their 20s, they were, they were like, one was 175 and the other one was 215. I mean, that's like, and it shows up in so many different ways in their lives in terms of their weight, their disinterest in life in general, their disinterest in having a relationship. I mean, when I was in my 20s, I mean, I was rabid. I mean, I was just, I was incredibly horny. I want to have, sex all the time. And so it was, these kids are not, they're not like that. And so you see these things, it's also a problem societally for young women, because there was an article in the Atlantic, or I saw a quote, and not that I don't read the Atlantic, but I saw a quote from the Atlantic where this millennial woman is going like, "Where are the men?" And and I've heard this from other women, young women in that bracket. And I have somebody who I kind of mentor. She's in college, and I go like, "Are you dating?" She goes like, "There's no one to date. There's no, they're all boys." And so it's kind of a sad thing in many ways. But this is happening to young men. This is happening because of toxins in the environment. And there's a long paper published in the Annals of Physiology, which is a highly peer-reviewed journal, where they talk about the fact that in utero, what's happening, and why these young men have low testosterone, is that when the woman is pregnant, the men's testicles, the embryo's testicles do not drop at the right time, and they're maldeveloped, and so that's what's causing this problem. It's not just testosterone that's an issue, but it's also actually the production of semen, and the semen levels in men have dropped by 50% in the last 30 years. Now, this is also part of this long paper. Uh, and their projection is that's the slope of that decline is such that it's not like leveling off. It's continuing to go down and down and down. And their comment is that their projection is that by 2050, most men in the world will be infertile. So don't worry about population, overpopulation. Actually, the exact opposite is happening in the world. There are many countries that are not replacing their population with new births, and the United States is one of them. The other one is Russia. Japan is horrible. South Korea is horrible. The replacement rate is 2.1 child per woman. If I remember correctly, Japan and South Korea are under one. The United States used to be above 2.1. Now it's at 1.67. China is in a world of hurt. They're saying that by the year 2100, China's going to be down to from 1.5 billion to 700 million people. So you can imagine how much, how all the load to take care of the older population is going to fall on the younger people. So it has all sorts of ramifications throughout society, and none of these are good. None of these things are good. Social Security. I think the number used to be You had 64 people to support one person on Social Security. Now it's three to support the Social Security benefits. So these things are going to have a very huge impact on generations and my kids and their kids.
So, what is can be the solution? Like, how can men now improve the situation?
Well, I think the testosterone situation is relatively easy. You find a doctor, which is a little bit hard, that's going to optimize you in terms of your testosterone and help you there. I said it's relatively easy. The nice thing about testosterone is generally, unless you end up going to one of these what they call these T mills, where they prescribe testosterone, but then they have you take a whole bunch of other stuff that you don't need, so they can make so they have a lot of add-ons for profit. Um, but testosterone actually is very, very inexpensive, and one of the reasons why it's gotten it has gotten a bad name because of I think probably a lot because big pharma, because you can't patent it. It's not patentable, so uh, big pharma will not do drugs that are not patentable. They have to have a patent on it and be able to run the risk. I totally understand the business model, uh, but that's that's really kind of the biggest thing that I think that men can do. Uh, the semen, I don't really know. People say, okay, we'll buy organic and do all these things and try not to use microwave your food in plastics and things like that. But to a large extent, it's already the damage is already done. The damage is well on its way. I know that there's lots of private equity groups going into the sperm bank business. There's a number of them that are doing that, and yeah, it's gotten so bad that they used to have sperm banks used to have certain standards of how much semen per ml was acceptable for donor, and they've dropped those levels too because they're not being able to find donors with the right levels of semen. So yeah, all those things are just things that are affecting us, and it's hard to get away from the toxins. They're in our foods, they're in the plastics, the GMO, the fertilizers, all that stuff.
Yes. So, uh, what else you would like to share today? It is just really very serious topic that we discussed, and um, men can definitely use this information to improve their state, physical and emotional state. Yes, and also that small things which they can do for their women to share with them how they care,
You know,
which really
you know,
matter.
yeah, yeah. I think the whole thing is it really starts with the mindset of the man, and men who I work with, who I coach, when we talk about this intimacy, probably 75% of the issue is intimacy. I mean, that's kind of like the number one thing that comes up as a factor. And they go, well, you have to talk to my wife. I go, no. I mean, I can, but that's not good. Me talking to your wife's not going to do any good. you know, wait, that's not the answer. Me talking to your wife. Now, at some point, maybe, yeah, at some point, maybe we talk about it. But uh, you know, be fun. I think that's probably the biggest thing is people get so serious and just be fun. Be when you're fun, you're attractive to be around, and it's very enticing. It's very flirtatious. It's very be seductive, and I think those type of things. I think that's probably the biggest thing that men don't do. I want to get back to this whole testosterone thing. If you go on if as a man you start going on testosterone, your attitude about life is going to change in a dramatic way, in a very good and positive and dramatic way. And so I just think it's just something that just about every man should be on, because it's going to really affect the quality of your life in so many different ways, and that will spill into your relationships. It'll spill into your business. It'll definitely spill into your fitness, and to a certain extent in your faith, which I think also is real important, that men have time um, to spend some time in prayer and talking to God and listening to God speak to them. The um, the other thing, Elena, is, as I really, and my wife encourages us this. Um, Men need to get together with men. And I have a couple of groups I'm in, and one is I have a Thursday cigar group where I have get together with a bunch of men, and it's sometimes we just talk nonsense. Sometimes we solve all the world's problems, and unfortunately, they're back to the problems come back the next day. But I think that the company of men is really important, uh, and that's something that a lot of guys don't do. And the other thing I would say is, like, pick who you hang with very carefully. I mean, I've told people I don't want them in my group. I have. I mean, people may say, "Oh, that's mean." No, there are some people that would really uh, be a detriment to my group, and I don't want them in the group for that very particular reason. We have very people from all sorts of different careers, most of them very successful, but be very careful, because if you hang around, let me put it this way: if you hang around with a bunch of people that are unhappy as a general rule, and play the victim card, you will become a victim.
Mm.
You will become, I can't remember. I think it was Jim Rome who said that. Said, you are the average of the five people you hang around with, and that's very true. That's very, very true. So I think it's very important to be careful about who you allow into your life, and at times you may have to eliminate people from your life, cut them out, and not infrequently, that is family. We've done that. I've done that. We just have some family members that are incredibly toxic. Anytime I spoke with them, I just wanted to, afterwards, I wanted to go in a closet and close the door and drink vodka by myself. And so, not infrequently, it is family. And if they're toxic, there's probably nothing that you can do if that's the relationship. And like I said, I had one. We both, my wife and I, we said, like, we're done. We're done. We're done with this family, this part of the family, and we haven't spoken. Uh, we haven't spoken in a little bit under 10 years. The only reason I knew that, I had a reminder that today's the 10-year anniversary of my mother passing away, and the, the funeral was a shit because some of my family. I mean, it was insane, some of the stuff that happened, and it was just like, no, it's this is enough. We're done.
Yes, protect your environment, yes, and protect your state, like where you get information from, and to make sure that you are in the circle of people who really can support you, lift you up, to whom you can share your thoughts, maybe pains, who can understand you and guide you and direct you to the right way, yes, instead of being just with toxic people and spending time for nothing.
Yeah, yeah. It's a, and people get into these relationships, both men and women, and they're kind of like, why are you in this relationship? If this person is abusive to you, leave. And people go, well, I can't afford to, or whatever. Like, I don't know. I think, and I understand there's a certain amount of fear about going out on your own, this and that. But if you're in an abusive relationship, that's not a way to live. And it can be both, the man and the woman can both be in abusive relationships. It's not generally generally just doesn't go just one way. But I my my wife, she's also of Ukrainian ancestry. Her parents came over after World War II to the United States. But my wife laughs. She goes like, after meeting your parents, how'd you turn out so normal? And they lived by us when we were living in Phoenix. So I grew up in Phoenix. So, but
Yeah,
yeah,
great.
yeah, yes, yeah.
Yes, so yes, it is. It came out well because you're third generation. Yes, the third generation. Good.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's kind of a interesting thing. But yeah, so I think the whole thing about being flirtatious and asking what a wife wants, what kids want. I've got two kids, two daughters. They're in their 20s, both doing really, really well. And we one of the things that I've done, and this is just kind of a little tip for guys, is that my one daughter, they both work completely remote, but my youngest daughter bought a pickup in a trailer, and around she traveled around the western United States, going from national park to national park to national park. And she's set up so the internet comes into her trailer, and she works from her trailer. Uh, and my other daughter works completely remotely, but she lives in Boston. But one of the things that I've done in order to keep in communication with them is to once a month, and this seems to be about the right amount of time. Once a month, uh, I have a happy hour with them. I pour myself a drink and get on a Zoom call, and we chit chat for about an hour or whatever. Once a month, about right. Too often, and it's like a helicopter parent. But once a month's about right. And so we kind of, and sometimes we get into some serious stuff, and sometimes I'm just catching up with what's going on in their life. But this has allowed us to keep good communication with both our kids as they've gotten older. And I've included my oldest daughter's fiance, uh, because just to establish a relationship with him, and to do that. But that's certainly something that's easy to do, and I would encourage that be done on one-on-one, versus don't get on the call with your wife. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we have a family meeting, but most of these calls are one-on-one calls.
Yeah, it is important to put time, to schedule time to be with the loved ones, with family, to keep communication open. Yes, so everybody can feel loved and heard, and can have support when it is needed.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and for men, it is the first, I think, if we just resume our conversation, whatever goals are, how big they are, still we have to put ourselves as priority. Yeah, so for
Hmm.
men listening to us, put yourself as priority, love yourself, don't neglect your physical state, how you look, how you feel. Because when you feel good about yourself, then when you have energy, yes, and then how you can be better partner for your life and for your wife, and as well as communication. Yes, although you're a leader, you know so much things, and you think that yes, you know what is the best for family, but there can be different options and different perceptions. Yes, and when you ask your wife or children what is their opinion, what they would like, again, it is not just about for information exchange, it is just about to showing them that you care. Yes, you care
Mhm.
about what they think, what they feel, how they look. And these small things, as also red roses, or maybe you can choose another color, it doesn't matter. I think that all women love roses. I especially always have also flowers on my desk. So, yes, so these small things, they can look small, but they're not small, they're big, because for women, these are small, different touches, even if they look small, but they are so important. Yes, and another thing which I noticed that women can love men only when they respect them. I
Mhm.
think for men it is they can love woman just because she is beautiful or maybe some other attributes. But I think for woman it is the most important thing that she respects the man, and this is how she loves them. I think that it is difficult for woman to love the man if she doesn't respect him. Yes, if he does some silly things, she will not respect them and him, and she will not feel that connection. Yes, like not showing woman that you love her with different gestures and doing things which will disappoint her. This is something that will start breaking the relations and put the distance between.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. You know, sometimes the uh, the shock of having divorce papers served is uh, is is huge, and that's like a big wake up call. And most men don't realize how bad things are until that happens. Now, there are some situations where you can repair, and there are other situations where it's so bad that that's beyond repair, and that's kind of an individual thing. It also it's requires a commitment first from the man, and the thing is that again I kind of go back to this. People will say, "Well, we talked." Well, talking is not the same as taking action. That's the so talking is actually very easy to do, and it's really taking consistent action on a daily basis, uh, and uh, you know, opening the car door, uh, holding her hand while you're walking, those kind of things really add to the intimacy, and it's the feeling that a lot of women want. The Yeah, so it really is. We're obviously we're wired differently, and because guys, as I said, guys can, it's a matter of seconds for guys. But the other the yeah, and then yeah, it's the other thing is that as women get older, um, and this comes up relatively frequently. Um, Sex can be painful for women, and uh, there's things that can be done to improve that, but it can be it can be painful, and people a man needs to understand that may be the one of the reasons why would you want to have sex if it hurts. You certainly don't want to do that. And then on the other side of the thing is the for men it's erectile dysfunction. And again, there's actually lots of good treatments out there now that weren't out there uh, 5, 10 years ago for that. But guys quite often think and don't realize that there's two people in that situation where you're dealing with erectile dysfunction, and they're both dealing with erectile dysfunction. And in some ways, the woman will often wonder, is it because of me? Is it that he doesn't find me attractive anymore? Because most of the time people gotten older, put on a few pounds, got some wrinkles, things like that. Uh, are they consuming a lot of porn, or are they having an affair, or whatever? And so those are the things that often will go through a woman's mind when a man suffers with erectile dysfunction. And it's a vicious circle, because the more you think about it, it's a big psychological component to it. And what also happens is that a lot of the medications that are out there, they work really well at first, and then over time they start working less and less, and you're increasing your dose more and more. I was talking to a man. The typical dose for Viagra, or the generic version of it, is about, they start off with 5 to 10 milligrams. Okay, this guy was taking 100 milligrams. I mean, it's
Really?
uh, yeah. I mean, that's a lot. And first of all, if it's not generic, it's very expensive. But there's so many good treatments out there for that right now, that really is actually kind of the uh, not really the best thing to do. And the other interesting thing is, the problem also with some of these medications is the window of opportunity is like 3 to 4 hours. So if someone happens to fall asleep, or they've had too much to drink, uh, it's the window of opportunity opens and closes. And like I said, maybe she fell asleep, maybe you fell asleep, or whatever. But but well, doesn't work very well.
Yeah, so thank you for sharing. It is so informative. I think everybody who listen our episode could find useful moments. And what you would like to share before we wrap up our episodes, maybe some or one thing which you consider as the very important from
I
our
I'm
conversation.
yeah. Elena, I'm gonna go back to this thing again about the testosterone, because it just the men who I've introduced to testosterone optimization
Mhm.
are just incredibly grateful. And if you, most of the time with your primary care physician, you're not, because they're going to treat to the normal lab values, which are not healthy. Not they're what they how they do how they get those lab values is they average. It's the average of the people that take the test. So if you have a bunch of people that are low testosterone, the normal is going to be low. So it's not optimized. But I would, if I would say anything, find yourself a good physician, and that is conversant with testosterone optimization. And that is probably the single biggest thing that will change your outlook, because it's an incredible, in my opinion, it's an incredible antidepressant. It really elevates your mood. It's a mood elevator. That's very, very big. So that's kind of the biggest take home. It's, you know, that's gonna spill over into other areas of your life. It's going to spill into your relationship, into your fitness, into your faith, but just that alone, and also into your business, because you're going to find that you are more decisive, have a lot more energy, and have a can-do attitude.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you so much. And of course, put yourself as priority. Love yourself, because when you love yourself, then you can love your wife, children, your teammates, and you will take care of yourself. You will look great. You will be more confident, decisive. And this is what driven achievers need to do.
Yeah, yeah. If you don't have a good relationship with yourself, it is impossible to have good relationships with other people. It is absolutely impossible. Even you may try to fake it, but it's impossible to have a good relationship with other people if you don't have a good relationship with yourself.
Thank you so much, Horace. It was an amazing interview. I enjoyed every moment, and I'm looking forward to see you again on our future episodes.
All right. Thank you. And thanks again for having me on your podcast.
You're most welcome.